This is my overview of building this pole barn project over 2 months last summer. It's made from partially reclaimed barn wood and serves as a workshop and a boathouse. You can see that the porch is looking out on sort of the sweet spot on our property. And Melissa and I built a house on the site a couple years back, and it really needed a barn, so we located it right over here by the silo. And here's just another view of where the barn ended up. The boat barn is over here to the left of the house. You'll see we're getting there, right in there under that tree. And most of the pictures here you'll see came from the upstairs window of the house. And actually at the end of the day after working, I would just go up there and snap a quick picture. It is an 8-pole pole barn, 4 long poles on the left and then 4 short ones on the right, which I notched some old logs into. You'll see how that worked out. The whole thing is built right there, sort of next to our power source for the whole property, so it's a good source for power for the barn itself. And then here on the right you can see those old notched logs kind of connected up with the short pieces that go in the ground. And that was something I was really interested with this project, was using some old reclaimed wood from my father-in-law John's old barn. And here you can see the whole frame on the pole barn kind of framed up a little bit more, getting a little bit more stability. And the framing was mainly 2x8s up above and 2x10s down below, just to give that floor a little bit more stability. And here's just more framing kind of going up to box it in. Each day I would kind of do a bit more work, as I said, and then snap a pic. And here I am kind of readying the roof trusses down below. These are made from reclaimed 3x5s, which were out of John's old barn. And just this awesome old wood. You can see some of it over here on the right and other that just came out of the truck. And I just actually set these up right on the frame itself in order to size them and cut them. And I worked alone on most of the project. So what I did here for the roof is just kind of put these triangles up sort of slowly and deliberately, one at a time. And before you know it, you've got 3, and then you got 4, and you got 6. Here's a pic with more of the roofing members up, and you can see down below how I'm kind of setting those guys up. The barn itself is 10 feet high, floor to ceiling. And here most of the roof is actually set up, all the members, but I wanted some big eaves. You can see on the right side I've got those big eaves coming, and I wanted one on either end. So to put the end eaves on, I notched in some flyers and put those together, and that was kind of slow going, but really fun work using that same old wood. And here you can see, I think, all the flyers notched in and ready for that last roof member. And I wanted the roof to be 21 feet. The barn itself is 18, but 21 feet would work for the roof, and that allows it to be divisible by 3, so the roofing itself fits. And you can see more of this roofing all kind of set up, and I was pretty happy with that. It had rained a bit, and then finally the sun came out and it dried. Over on the right here is some of that subroofing. It's some old tongue and groove, and I've got it all up. That didn't take too long, actually, just to roof up the barn. And as I said, 21 feet side to side, so it'll fit with that 3-foot wide roofing. And I wanted to add a cool feature of a cupola or cupola. Those are common on old barns, and I really wanted to put that on this barn, so I went ahead and put one of those guys up. That roof is also divisible by 3. I believe it's 9 feet in all. And that adds light to the inside structure and some airflow. I got down on the ground for a couple of pics and took some pictures of the roof. I was really amazed at how much that old barn roof from John's barn really looks just like this roof on the new boat barn, seeing how it's made from the same old wood. It seemed like it was turning out pretty good so far. You can see the old logs there on the front of the structure, and that's sort of an aesthetic thing. And I also, I wanted to reuse that old wood. Those don't go in the ground, obviously, since they're not pressure treated. And you can see our old shed there on the left. That's the shed we used to build the house. Oh my gosh. And here's just more shots on the ground of where the shed, where the boat barn is going in, sort of back by the silo. And then this last shot here, this last kind of big panorama, just kind of shows you a little bit of the view from the boat barn. It really looks out, like I said, on the sweet spot on our property and looks real good. All right, so back to work. Here, putting the walls up, and you can see how those logs are exposed there in the front. And the walls are kind of going up. They're particle board, and I wanted those logs to be visible in the front, so you can sort of see how they're in front of the wall, which is a little bit unusual, but I decided to do it that way. And here, I think the main difference is you just see more of that siding going on, that particle board. And here it's all walled in, ready to go. I'm working on cutting windows out and the doors out and that kind of thing. And the cupola is now walled in too. And that was, a little bit tough up in there. I'm getting that done. The next thing I did is put some house wrap on it. And I deliberated with myself a little bit if I really wanted to do house wrap or not, but I went ahead and did it. It wasn't too much extra expense. Here, the concrete's going on the ground for the porch. I didn't want to put the wood in the ground again because I was using the old barn wood. So you've got the concrete piers in the ground for the porch. And same thing here, concrete's in the ground and the roof's starting to go on the cupola. Look out. I had some help from Melissa, thank God, on the roof. And we put the whole roof on that barn in a day, maybe even half a day. It went up really quick. Those are all single pieces, and I just got them cut exactly to the size I needed. And there it is, all kind of trimmed out with the ridge cap on it, and it's pretty much watertight-ish at this point, which was always a good moment when you're building something. And so I moved to the porch. You can see I've got the members in, those big logs again, set up on the porch, and I'm starting to frame it in. And you'll see how that sort of develops in a bit. The porch gets its own roof. And here in this next pic, you see the roof starting to go on the porch. And I'm using the same old 3x5s from the old barn to roof in the porch. And it's a little bit flatter, but it's still got some slope to it, so the watershed's just fine. And more work on the porch, just kind of getting that done and sided. Here I sided under the porch roof with some old barn wood, which I thought looked pretty cool. And you can see the roof is on the porch, but missing one piece. I ran one piece short on the roof, and ended up making that up later. And so next thing we did, Melissa helped out, and we put the siding, the batten board siding up, and just bam, we did like a side and a half per day, really quick, putting that siding up. And the more siding going on, and not only siding, but also all the trim work that had to go around the house to really make it tight. And it took a couple days to get it just right. It's always worth spending money and time, not money, on trim. And working on that cupola, getting it sided was a little bit rough with that slick metal roof. So I had a rope hanging out the window, and it all worked out, but it was a little bit tough up there. Here you can see more of the sort of evidence of trim, and I think I've got the front door on. Yeah, front door is on there. And what you don't see, obviously, is the round back, is that I'm also putting a back door on, which you'll see in a minute, and the whole back side of the house. But there's no windows on the back side, so it's pretty simple. And here it is all cleaned up. Oh my gosh, it looks so good cleaned up, so much better than my messy old work site. And I'll show you the side door in a second. The side door is pretty sweet because you can both drive the lawnmower into it, and you can also bring boats in. And here's the front porch, looking pretty good, I think. It's got just a great view out there. I think we need some lights. That's like the next thing we got to do. Little party lights. Here's that side door. It's got a little mini roof to shed the water, and you can drive the lawnmower right up those removable ramps right into the boat barn. And there's a nice, on the left here, if you go in that big door on the left, there's a nice workbench that I made out of some big old boards that came out of that old barn. So it all turned out pretty good, I think. It was really awesome to use reclaimed wood. I was psyched to use some of that old barn wood finally. And, it just had sort of a mix of classic and new. I think it has a lot of classic touches with the cupola on the top and the big eaves. But obviously there's some new products here. I also got to reuse some old stuff I'd had around for maybe a decade, like some old windows. All these windows here are all things that I've had. Anyway, leave messages in the comments if you have any.